Good evening, everyone. My name is Mohammed Altaf. I'm the chair for the branch. This is the last in the series of webinars on digital transformation by Kuldip Sandhu. Today's two topics are going to be technology trends for 2021 and beyond, and organizational change management. I'm going to hand over to Kuldip for an introduction of himself, and then he'll do his talk as well. Just before I hand over, if you do have any questions, please post them and we will answer them during the questions and answer session. Over to you, Kuldip.
Thank you, Altaf, for the introduction, and good evening to, or good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you might be. Thank you for attending my webinar. This is the third in the series, and as Altaf mentioned, we're focusing on some of the technology trends, and these are my own opinions on what I think is going to land in terms of technology trends and emerging trends, and a little bit about organizational transformation. A little bit about me. 25 years of business and IT experience. There's a bunch of logos of clients and organizations I've worked for, I should say, in the slide there. I set up as an independent and set up my company called Innovative Quality Solutions about 4 or 5 years ago, and we try to solve digital and IT transformation problems, and we sit very neatly between the intersection between business and IT, ensuring that we get the IT function department aligned to the digital transformation agenda, which is very prevalent at the moment. As you can see, I've spent a number of years in industry, in management consultancy, as well as an interim with some senior roles. I've just completed a couple of years as the head of technology at the Excel Convention Center before the pandemic hit, and hopefully that qualifies me to be talking about some of the subject areas that we're going to cover tonight. So as I said, this has been a series. Just to set some context, I talked about digital transformation in November, and I was trying to demystify that, particularly around the rapid adoption of technology and the market force, and how the pandemic had accelerated technology and digital transformation, and what that meant for the IT department. In December, we talked. There was a talk and a presentation around robotic process automation, some use cases that we presented, and particularly how we can identify the right candidates for automation where there might be repetitive, high volume activity across an enterprise, and how you automate using tools and technology such as UiPath and Prism. We also had a quick brief overview of how DevOps can bring about cultural change in the technology world, and how bracing that culture with Agile and techniques and frameworks as ITSM all complement each other in terms of bringing iterative Agile feedback and development of products and services in an Agile way. And today, as we already said, it's about tech trends. So let's plow in, lots of content to get through. I have got a video to play for you as well, and we've got 3 polls, which hopefully will allow the audience yourselves to interact with us and give us some inputs and insights to what you're thinking and how you are working and using some of the technology trends, hopefully, and your insights will be valuable in terms of your organizations that you're working with at the moment. So technology trends for 2021. I'm going to caveat and say these are my personal views. Obviously, I've did a little bit of research as well, and tried to put it in context and in terms of the pandemic that's been hit us globally, and how that has really accelerated the adoption of some of these things. So I'm going to go through a list of things that I think are going to become the norm as part of that impact. And then I'm going to be talking a little bit about AI and machine learning, which I think is, not only emerging, there's lots of now platforms that are emerging. I've got a little video to play for you. I'm working with an organization called Cyborg Intel, and they've developed an AI machine learning platform which really accelerates that data science world. And I'll show you that. And secondly, and the fourth point there, we'll do a little poll survey on what your thoughts are on the top 5 trends. Moving on. So what are those trends? As I said, these are my views and my opinions. The first one, well, I think without a shadow of doubt, we are in a world where we are working remotely more than ever, and that will continue for a while. And there's been a plethora of technology tools that have emerged as we've been collaborating with people, and technology has been great because it's really broken down the silos for communication of people across industries, across geographies, across the world. And tools like Microsoft Teams, Zooms, Google Meet, Blue Jeans, and then the story goes on, I think are here to stay. And I think, there's going to be a big, interesting challenge to see which organizations and the volume of people that end up in offices in the cities compared to people working rurally. I think what that split will be is still to emerge, but I think there will be, and my data and my research suggests there are pros and cons for working remotely in a way. Some people feel they're really highly productive. Some people feel that they are isolated, and some people feel that they don't feel part of the organization and culture, where others quite happily to have spent more time with family. So there's all sorts of challenges that we face with this, but it's going to be interesting how this emerges. But the technology is definitely there, and I think those technologies will only there'll be functional enhancements for those technologies as we collaborate globally. The underpinning infrastructure to ensure that we can work remotely anywhere at any time really really needs to be agile and nimble. And I think the move to cloud is only accelerated. I think post-pandemic, organizations have moved to accelerate their cloud strategies or develop their cloud strategies. And I think they're becoming multi-cloud strategies. So, there could be on-premise infrastructure as well as cloud infrastructure, and the access to infrastructure, computing power and storage is on the increase, and accelerated by the large volume of data that we gather and share on a global basis, on a daily global basis, I should say. And I think that multi-cloud strategies also helps us to spin up environments so that we can experiment and do proofs of concepts. And I think that whilst cloud is an absolute trend and it will accelerate, we need to be careful about how we do data management and the governance around that, and also making sure that we're not compromising any data within the organization, which kind of leads me quite neatly to my third area, is that we really need to continue to be vigilant in terms of cybersecurity. We need to make sure that we've got the right processes, policies, governance, as well as the right training and support for staff to understand how they manage security issues and vulnerabilities, from managing passwords to ensuring that we're monitoring threats for denial of service, phishing emails to ransomware. And I think the other emerging area here is cyber warfare. We all know about some of the global governments that are being finger pointed for upsetting and fake news and pushing out messages that actually are trying to interrupt government policies and government and just actually inciting certain types of behavior. That's something that we really need to be aware of. And also vulnerabilities of working at home, having the right equipment, making sure that there aren't any vulnerabilities with remote access and routers and firewalls and so forth. And one of the things somebody said to me the other day was, if we've got lots of data, personal data at home from a company, and it gets maybe some information sent via the Royal Mail by the postman, is the postman a real threat? So there's things to think about as we go from a remote to a remote workforce, and the vulnerabilities and challenges around that. I think the other thing that's going to emerge is that X as a service. I think everything's going to come as a service. There's software as a service, there's infrastructure as a service, there's hardware as a service, and I think there's going to be experience as a service. No longer are the days where stakeholders are fully satisfied. We just don't know sometimes what the experience of our stakeholders and end users is, and we need to work out a better way of determining what that experience is and meeting customer expectations. Because my experience is a lot of people, end users, suffer in silence from an IT perspective. We need to be better at being proactive and monitoring the experience of our end users and stakeholders. I think to support cloud strategies and remote working and office working, we need to ensure that business continuity and disaster recovery plans are well documented, well executed, well tested. This is again, I think, will be paramount for all organizations this year and going forward, so that we can cope with any market or global pandemics, or the next COVID-20 or 21, or the mutant versions of a pandemic, and how we can respond to ensure business continuity going forward, and recovering IT systems and data with good backup and storage. This is a kind of bit of a wild card I threw in, VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. This is a particular architecture type of providing laptop as a service in a way, maybe renting laptops if organizations want sorry, not laptop, desktop I should say, if organizations want their workforce to work remotely, they can provide a virtual image of their desktop. And actually this VDI has been around for quite a number of years and given quite significant benefits to organizations, and I've put it in there because I think it could make another play into the marketplace. Just to reinforce the message around experience as a service, I've been working with a number of organizations recently around how do we measure end user experience, and there's a number of tools that are now emerging. One of them, one provider I work with is called NextThink, and they actually poll and survey end users in a really proactive way to understand the experience that they have in the marketplace and with their users around IT. And I think these tools will absolutely become really important, because it's about understanding the human challenges around IT and monitoring that, so to be proactive and preventative. I think with a shadow of a doubt, contactless delivery and payment is the day of the day. It's here to stay. Amazon and all the other big providers have now diversified all their service to be online. And I just today I got my new BT hub and disk, and it was all delivered. I ordered it a day and a half ago. It was contactless. It was delivered on time, and payments as well now can be done online very much really quickly and securely. And I think with the pandemic, this is only just accelerated organizations and retail organizations particularly to really accelerate the use of electronic payments in a secure way. And one of my final ones, I did mention artificial intelligence and machine learning. I'm going to dig a little bit into this. I'm going to give a little bit more context around that in the next few slides. And please hold these in your mind, because I am going to ask you what you think at these top 5. I'm going to pick 5 of these and ask you for your opinion in which ones you think are most likely to stick as part of the new norm. So a little bit about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And this is a real core area of mine, because I'm very excited, because I've been working with a number of organizations on AI, and one in particular that I want to mention today. But AI has really been on a journey. You know, we had data analysts who were automating reports, AI, data analysts then gathering information and data in a structured way from systems like ERP and CRM. And you can see here on this slide, I've got a number of criteria, and then I've tried to distinguish business intelligence from data science. Here, business intelligence, which is a step up from kind of data analysts, is getting structured data, analyzing it from an analytical and statistical perspective, and it covers historical, past and present data. Whereas when we move into data science, we're now thinking of structured and unstructured data from all sorts of logs, and we're now moving into an area where we're trying to think of using algorithm models, statistical models, and visualizing that, and using machine learning to continually update those models in a predictive way, so that we're actually using present data to make future predictions. And there's loads of use cases and platforms that are emerging in the marketplace to help us with that, and that's where I think the world's going. The AI, just a little bit about the AI world and the jargon. AI is a next move from kind of, data science is deeply involved in AI, but the distinction between data science and AI is a branch of computer science that is really dedicated on creating intelligent machines, and that can take the place of humans, and so that humans can do higher value, much more strategic work, not replace humans, but allow us to focus on more higher value activities. And as this slide shows, it's quite. I wanted to kind of just show you what AI is, and it's really kind of taking those manual tasks that are data driven, so that you get decisions to improve human value, and solving problems with data, and using machine learning, which is all about looking at the outputs and answers to questions and results from calculations and human knowledge, to automatically gain experience and know-how actions, and to see if they succeed and fail. And that's underpinned by deep learning. And now we're in a world where we have algorithms and APIs connected to those algorithms that allow us to train systems and perform complicated tasks. And they are usually based on some pattern recognition, idea generation, and to give us those predictions, and using deep neural networks. I'm not going to go into deep neural networks because I'm not qualified enough to, but I can definitely show you a platform, and tell you that the overarching image we tend to get for AI is the picture on the left there, but AI is already here. We have Alexa, Echo, and all sorts of gadgets, and wearables. And I think AI is now becoming an absolute game changer for organizations in allowing them to analyze data and predict whatever their use case be, from improving profitability, returns, or solving, predicting who is going to be suffering for diseases, and where to focus on the human side as well. 4 types of AI, just to give you a little bit more insight. If we start on the far right, we've traditionally came from reactive machines. This is the kind of AI that was purely reactive, and where the actual machines didn't formed memories, but for past experiences, but they didn't really, and made decisions, but these machines were designed for specific jobs. And you can think of a chatbot. That was what a chatbot was, but we've really now moved into the limited memory. This is the kind of AI where AI uses past experience and present data to make decision making. And if you think of autonomous self-driving cars, they have a lot of AI, because that car's got to navigate in maybe heavy traffic to go from point A to point B, and it has to learn. So it's self-learning in a way as it navigates to its destination. I think that's the world we're in at the moment, but there's a lot of effort to move us into the theory of mind. This is where AI machines can socialize and start to understand human emotions, and where machines start having such abilities being built in. And maybe the prediction is by 2045, according to Moore's law, as we exponentially increase our computing power, by 2045, the future of our AI might mean that we become these machines become super intelligent, sentient, i.e. they have deep learning and emotion, and conscious. Scary world that we might be moving into, but we need to think about how we do data management and governance of these machines as we go forward. So my trend, I thought, how do I explain my trend? Well, I thought I'd give you a model or a platform, I should say. My view is that we're going to be starting to capture data autonomously at the edge through Internet of Things, through devices, and then we're going to get symbiotic robots who are going to take and process that information. And what will emerge is understanding the biases in that data, and to make sure that we can bring about a level of trust and control, so that the insights we get from that data is distributed in a trustworthy way. And we also are going to move from digital ethics to data equity, so we're actually now understanding the value from the data that comes from deep machine learning. And this is just a little platform I think is emerging as we use AI to transform organizations from 2021 onwards. And I've just kind of pulled that together to show you how I see that cyclical cycle working. Just to now I'm going to just quickly show everybody, I thought it would be useful to play a video that shows everybody what a AI platform can do. And so if you just bear with me, Altaf, I'll need you to just make sure that the video is playing.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
It's yes, it is. Well, until Kuldip comes back up, I think I thought it was quite interesting that he mentioned about 2045, where possibly a lot of AI is going to be developed, and we're probably going to be seeing a much of a different world from what we are now. And I guess there's challenges as well in that. And again, what are the risks involved in this as well? So it's something to think about there, because it is interesting, because they do say that coming with AI, people are going to lose their jobs, and the current jobs are not going to be there when this thing happens, because there might be new jobs as well. There's a lot of argument about how the state, the government, needs to possibly help during that time, and how they're going to help the people to basically be continuing their normal life. Do they need more handouts? Do they need better? Okay, you're back on.
I unmuted you.
Thank you.
That's fine. Okay, so I was just covering some stuff while you were getting ready, Kuldip.
No problem. I just wanted to say about the video. I can share that with people afterwards, but it really just shows the ins and outs of the Cyborg Intel platform and how you take data, ingest the data, turn it into insights using algorithm models, and then you can visually see those predictions with a level of accuracy. And that's why you need our AI. So the platform is effectively acting as data scientists. So it's actually doing that transformation and using algorithm models to give those predictions. And it's very, very powerful. So it helps with data quality. It also will help with defining what your use case is to give you the outputs with a level of accuracy. And it's self-learning, and that's the important message. It really is self-learning, so that when you actually deploy that model into a production environment, it becomes you monitor it, and you can bring alerter up about how to actually readjust it so that your model doesn't get corrupted and so forth. So sorry about the interruption. It's quite difficult navigating through some of those areas. Can you still hear me, Altaf?
Yeah, we can hear you, and we can see. We just started seeing your slides.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is get a little bit of audience participation. Is to go and do the first poll, and I'm hoping technology will work. Out of the predictions I've made, there's 5 there: remote working, cloud, cybersecurity, business continuity, and end user experience. I'd like to ask the audience via a poll, which one of those, or you can vote from one or more, do they think is going to continue and accelerate in 2021 and onwards? And I'm going to now launch that, and hopefully the poll is open for people to vote. Please vote. Can you vote for which you think is going to really become part of the norm? So I have no idea of the number of people voting, but 60% have voted, which is quite 67. Okay, let's go 70%. And it's interesting. At the moment, obviously the remote working and the collaboration tools is ahead, or just ahead of cybersecurity. The two go hand in hand, in my view. Absolutely agree. And then followed by cloud, IT disaster recovery, and user experience. And we have 80% of the participants contribute. That's great. I'll just give it a few more seconds, and there's a few people still haven't voted out there. We'd love to have your inputs. But as you can see, the leader is definitely the one I had put number 1. I put cybersecurity number 3, and I had cloud as number 2. So I feel vindicated a little bit. Thank you for your contribution, and we'll move on to the next area of my talk. Obviously, we'll have this data. It's great to capture it later. Can you, Altaf, can you just make sure that I can see my screen? You can see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll.
Yeah, I can now. We can see organization change.
Yeah. So that was my first half of my webinar, and I think we're pretty much in time. Please excuse us for the slight alteration with the video, but I think we're back on track. So the second area that I was going to talk about was organizational change. And, whenever we roll out a system, we roll out infrastructure, or we roll out an IT project, or even nowadays, if we ever roll out a business project, technology has a core component part of it. And bringing about change using technology as enabler is a massive undertaking, because it's not just about the technology, it's about the ways of working and processes, and importantly, how do you make sure your stakeholders, end users, are understand what's coming, are involved in the change, and are participants in the change, and how do you get adoption? How do you increase adoption through people engagement? And that's what I'm going to talk about now, and my experiences around that. And I'm going to actually do a quick poll to help me with this. I'm going to do a poll around the 3 types of organizations that I think are emerging, and then we're going to move into some lessons I've learned from change management at an organizational level, and I'll give you a quick model about change considerations. So my first poll is around, I think from COVID-19, there's 3 types of organizations that are emerging. And this is based on my experience and what some of the organizations I've been talking to and working with. The first organization is the protector business, where they're protecting the existing operating model. They've been really reactive to the crisis. They're in a bit of denial. They think as soon as the pandemic's over, we're going to get people to come back into the office, and customers are phoning in, and there's still poor customer service. They've been cost cutting, and they've been stopping investment in transformation and trying to protect revenue. Then there's the frozen business, who haven't done anything. Either they've gone out of business or they're about to go out of business. Then the third and most kind of prevalent organization I've seen is the organization that's become galvanized. This is the one that has decided it needs to think about its business model, pivot, and think about customer needs and changing needs of customers. It's adapted really quickly. It's understand that technology is a key enabler, and it started engaging customers, communities, colleagues in a rapid way to build new solutions. And the poll I'd like to ask is, which one of those organizations are you working in, or if you're a consultant, have you seen experience? So I'm going to do a poll, and I'm going to ask you, are you the protector organization? Are you frozen? Are you galvanized? Is it a combination of the above, or is it none of the above? So here goes with poll number 2. Let's see, and I'm going to launch it now. Altaf, can I just get your view that you can see the...
Yes, we can. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Oh, a big push for the galvanized organization. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm going to give at least a minute for this poll. 72% voted. That's great. Keep on voting. Keep on commenting. Yeah, the combination of the above is second, and that's interesting because and I'll show you some. I've done this survey 3 times. This is the 3rd one, and we do get quite a lot of votes for that. It's usually a combination of A and C, the protect and the galvanized. That's why 25% have voted a combination. It's interesting, 6 none of the above. I really would be interested in why that 6% has said none of the above. Is there a different type of organization? But that could be for another time. I will close the poll, and I'm going to switch back into... Thank you for your votes, and thank you for telling me that you and your organizations are galvanized. Here's the 2 poll surveys I've done on that one before. Remember, A was protector, B frozen, C galvanized, and a combination of A and C. And the results absolutely mirror what you guys today have shared with me. Most organizations, well, 60%, I say 50% of 60%, are actually thinking about have either galvanized or have really pivoted their businesses to become more adaptive for the new world that's emerging, or a part of there's a little bit of the A side as well, which is the protector side. So there's still a few, and there's still a few that the frozen. There's still a few frozen. So thank you for that. And why is it important to transform and change? So why did I want to do that poll? That poll is important because organizations who have galvanized have had to galvanize in a really rapid way, and they've had to and what I mean by rapid is that they've been nimble and agile. And what that means is that there was a crisis. It's not a case of a mandate. We as organizations and corporates and institutions had to change. And actually the decision power wasn't coming from top down, it was coming from an external force. And people, there's a purpose, there's a need for change, and people got on with it. They formed teams in a loose way, and they actually created outputs and in a really rapid agile way. And the reason that's important is because if you look at this graph, which shows moral and competence with time, as organizations change, what I've seen, you can either go the big bang approach, which can alienate people, can cause a lot of resistance to change, or you can do things in an incremental, agile way, small chunks of people, process, technology, or create your strategy in an iterative way. And that tends to, in my experience, keep morale and competence higher and get the better returns. And I think what's happened from what we've learned from the pandemic is that change, to me, with purpose, has to happen in that incremental way. It's the better model for ensuring that staff are engaged, they understand what to do, and they do it in a rapid, agile way. And that is the model that I was invoking pre-COVID around change. And those are my experiences on the many projects and transformation projects. That transformation needs to be done in an iterative, agile way rather than in a big bang approach. There might be occasions where you want to do a big bang, but only in small, discrete ways. But I think COVID-19, from my experience from talking to many senior leaders in corporates, they really have experienced that iterative, agile adoption and ways of working. Just to show you how that fits into corporate change, what I see in most organizations is that they try to do too much too quickly up front. And what they really need to do is not force the pace of change. Because when you're changing an organization or a function or a department, what you're asking people is to unlearn and learn new ways of working. And if we force that pace of change, it builds the resistance and you don't get the cumulative effect of transformation. But if you can get the innovators, the people, you can work out who these people are in organizations. They are the innovators, the people who are really thinking about the future and want to change. If you can galvanize those innovators early in your transformation cycle, you can then get the early adopters, but they're quite scarce. But once you've got those early adopters and you move across that, crossing that chasm, you can then get the early majority. And what the early majority are looking for is social proof of the change. And what happens once you get there, the late majority come. And then the laggards, who you should not focus on, in my view, at the beginning, see this social proof, see the benefits, and come on board with change. And the curve, the S curve here, I've shown in a cumulative curve. So the cumulative normal distribution here is the S curve distribution profile for change. And I've seen this work in many organizations, not everywhere, but in many organizations in my experience with transformational change. So let me just focus in on managing change. So I did the poll because I wanted to extract some learning from how organizations are emerging from COVID. And I think there's a few things here I want to share with you. I think we should be thinking about change mentality and it being continuous rather than change management. I think the world of the perfect end state doesn't exist anymore. You are continually moving to a new destination, and we therefore need to manage what that destination is. We need to have sense of purpose, of vision and a strategy with inspirational leadership to coach you towards that vision, but that vision is typically constantly changing because of the constant change we face either through external forces or the market or new entrants. And I think it's important that we empower people and our colleagues to be on that journey. And as I was talking about those galvanized organization, if you can devolve decision making down to the lowest level where the problem resolvers are, they're the ones that can actually fix your challenges. And I think COVID has created a compelling case, I should say, for business-wide agility. Let's continue to think about collaboration and how we focus on problems and outcomes. Let's not focus on structures and silos. The governance models, we still need some level of governance, but let's let people coalesce in teams and break down silos between functions and departments so they can solve problems and achieve outcomes. And managers need to shift from being instructional to driving and developing skills of teams to achieve those outcomes. And to be successfully to work virtually, change needs to involve as many stakeholders in the organization, and particularly frontline workers, because they're the ones that know what the challenges are, and they are constantly trying to find solutions for those challenges in the organization. What does that mean? Well, I have developed a model for bringing about change in my working life through IQS. And here is a model that I use quite successfully. And these are kind of 5 things to think about when you're changing and transforming in that agile way. And one, you need to think about your ways of working and those functions and silos and how you're going to break them down. You need process. Make the process as simple as possible. Continually look for waste and making things leaner. Be people-centric. Make sure you are engaging people and you're giving them autonomy and room to develop with engaging projects and making sure that they are involved. Technology is a great enabler. Getting the right systems in place, having platforms with open APIs, getting rid of legacy IT, getting rid of shadow IT where necessary, and making sure technology can be an enabler for your ways of working, giving more efficiency and effectiveness. Automate, use AI to give you insight and analytics. So move from data analytics to business intelligence and then into data science, and then use AI to give you even predictive models that allow you to understand how your business is working, not working, and make predictions, and use data to give you insights, not coupled with your kind of gut instincts is a key aspect of transformational insight to help you make the right decisions at a strategic and operational levels. So we'll move into the final few slides. I have, as I said to you all at the beginning, this has been a series. This has been a very interactive series of talks. So this is the 3rd talk with 6 topics. And what I really would like to do is launch my final kind of poll to everybody. But before I launch it, I just wanted to explain to you what I'm looking for here and what hopefully what we could go on to. The poll I'm going to ask you to do, so which workshops would you as attendees would like to attend in the future to give you more insight and actually do it in an interactive, collaborative way. So the first workshop I've coined is digital transformation. I've developed a platform with a partner of mine which provides digital simulation, and it kind of mimics the kind of complexity that we see in our organizations, and it allows you to, it's an experiential learning platform. So you can, in a safe environment, you can learn how you can make certain strategic and operational changes in your business and how it impacts a number of KPIs in your business around profitability, revenue, and maybe customer satisfaction. And you learn things around how IT service management, Agile, and DevOps can really improve your business. Now, that's a workshop and training I'm offering a couple of one or two spaces for free as a workshop. The second workshop I'm offering is around how you can transform your IT function in a digital era, in a digital world. And I've developed in my career a number of tools and capabilities around IT maturity models to see how you can just transform your IT function, to go on that transformation journey, to actually realize some of those trends I talked about in on centered on consolidation, standardization, bringing in innovation, and bringing about agility to delivering business outcomes. So that's the second workshop. Third workshop is around how we can bring into place cultural frameworks like DevOps into your organization, combining it with Agile and service management to give value to your stakeholders in terms of bringing about lean change and value stream mapping products and services in a lean, agile way, and in a culture of real inclusivity while reducing waste and automating your delivery pipelines. I can go into a deeper session on technology trends and beyond, where we're looking at those emerging trends that I've presented today. And I also presented on organizational change management. Whilst it was a 20-30 minute piece, there's a lot more behind that, and about developing the people-based approach to change management, and we can explore that. As I said, number one is the one where I'm offering one or two places, but I'd like to get the audience's view on what they like to hear about in the future. I'm going to do that by launching a poll. So again, I'll need to make sure that you can see this poll. I'm about to launch it now. Oh, two of my favorite topics are, or three of my favorite topics actually, coming ahead the front. Okay, I'm going to give it at least a minute and a bit, as I've done for the other ones. We've got 70% taking up the voting. That's really, really good. Let's have a look. We had 60% for the simulation training, organizational change and IT function transformation. Well, that's great. Those first two are, and the third one all go hand in hand. And I am really quite delighted with that, because I think the BizDevSecOps is really good, important technology trends. Well, yeah, there's a bit of speculation in some of those, but yeah, sentiment is definitely simulation training on digital transformation, what it means, and it means many things to many organizations. So I can understand why that would be important. An IT function transformation is just part of digital transformation for me. So I can see why that scored highly. And to do any of that, you need organizational change management and best practices. So thank you very much. I hear you, and at that stage, I am going to ask you, to all of you, I'm going to close the poll and flick back to my slides and say, if you, in any of those areas, you will need to contact me to take part in those paid workshops. They are going to be, based on the input, I can see where the focus will be. You've got my contact details to connect. You've got my LinkedIn profile. You've got my email address and my mobile number. Please connect with me, and I can then get in touch with getting you involved in items 1 to 5 there, in order of priority based on the voting that I've got. I hope you've all enjoyed the whirlwind of tech trends and also the organizational change management stuff. I've really enjoyed presenting to this community, and I'd like to thank BCS West London, Ram, who does all the hard work at the back, and most importantly, Altaf at the beginning, for his sponsorship and his support to present to this community. At that stage, I'm going to stop and hand back to Altaf to see if there's any next steps that you would like me to do.
Thank you, Kuldip. That was very interesting on the trends and also the organization change. We got a few questions. First one is, how do you deal with black box bias with AI?
Great topic. Thank you. I haven't had time to really talk about that. I don't think you can really build out bias. You have to understand it. So you need to understand what you're pulling in, from my understanding. So, I know there's been a few, I think there was a Microsoft Twitter issue a few years ago, where the machine was learning as it went along, and it was picking up some really bad tweets and some really racist and derogatory tweets, which it picked up and it started distributing out. So that was an example of where bias had been picked up and then kind of propagated, and they had to stop it. So there is definitely a challenge in terms of making sure that you know what your bias you're putting in. Maybe there might be a day where we got software that actually picks up that bias and tries to draw it out. There isn't anything I know at the moment where that exists, but we need to be aware of it. So another example, I think it was at Reuters. Reuters HR had a bot that was used to scan and review CVs, and as it reviewed the CVs, there was built-in bias around picking CVs from males of white origin and of a certain demeanor, and it ended up and of a certain gender. So again, that bias has come out in machine learning. So yes, we have to be very cautious about that. I haven't seen anything that says to me where there's software that allows us to bring that out, but it's certainly a challenge. But we need to be aware of it and how we manage that. Hello, Altaf, we lost you.
Sorry. Sorry, I was talking to myself there. No, I was just thinking about the year 2045.
Yeah.
Going to be quite an interesting year, because it might, or coming to that year, it might be quite interesting because we might be hovering around the moon and Mars possibly with all this different.
Well, we have to be very
Elon
careful,
Musk.
don't we, Altaf? We have to be very careful, don't we, Altaf? Because that question was a great one around bias. We need to be developing models. It's that adage. Excuse my language. Crap data in, crap data out, crap results out. We really have to be careful about how we clean data, what biases we put in, because these, and managing the ethics and the governance of these machines is going to be really important. So that's one side. But when you get to a machine being able to understand human emotion and responding to that, how much can you control? I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure. So slightly scary on one side, Altaf.
It is. I think it's scary world coming out there, isn't it? Because there could be a lot of uncertainty as such, isn't it? There are a couple of questions. We'll try to see if we can sort of bring them together. There are tools, AI tools. Are there any established ones, sort of global by global organizations in there, Kuldip?
A lot of the underlying technology, you got Python and R. There's lots of programming languages that are become standardized for developing these models, and the data scientists. So these data scientists are, all PhD graduates with statistical skills and coding skills. And so they have there's a lot of programming languages and tools that have become prominent in the marketplace. So that's where I've seen some level of standardization. But I think what a lot of them do, because of the open APIs, you can go and grab algorithms from different open source entities to create those predictive models. So that's what I've seen.
Right. Thanks, Kuldip. I think I quite also liked about when you mentioned about change management and change versus change mentality, and also it being very people-centric, because you want to get people involved, isn't it? Because it's their system, their project, isn't it? In terms of when it comes to change. So a great talk. Thank you, Kuldip, again. It's this like I said, this is unfortunately, sadly, the third series, but I think we've enjoyed all three of the series with actually 6 talks. If there's anything, 6 topics at least. So brilliant. Thank you very much, Kuldip. And for the audience, thank you for your attendance as well. And if you do have any questions, Kuldip is he's got his details there. I'm sure he'll sort of be more than welcome to get in touch with you all. I am going to close this session now. And again, thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you.